So really quickly, let's talk about the question block. Well, not really quickly, but you know the deal. Question block is a weekly segment that is on this bi-weekly segment, that is on this podcast, where we tackle one of your questions for 4 minutes and try to come up with our best answers and argue over things if we can. So first question actually leads into something very recently that at least Per and I have been doing, and maybe you have too, Brian, but revisiting the GameCube has been kind of a thing around the office for a little bit now. Yeah.
Boom.
Played Eternal Darkness.
I revisit the GameCube every time I close my eyes.
Really? You don't hook it up to the TV? Nothing?
I mean, it's just... What was the question? Just like...
No, well, actually, let me... Yeah, you're right. Sorry, not to cut you off. So this leads into that we were playing Eternal Darkness recently.
Yeah.
And the question comes from Kevin, and he says, do you think Eternal Darkness could be a successful HD remake as an untouched virtual console release? Or is there barely any audience for this type of game on current Nintendo platforms?
Wait, so a untouched remake, basically just porting the GameCube game over one for one.
But not HD.
I would imagine that's what it's weird. Wait, I think there's two parts to this question. Do you think Eternal Darkness could be as successful as an HD remake?
Yes.
Maybe he means or as an untouched virtual console release.
I think both.
Or is there barely any audience for this?
So if you had asked me like 2 days ago, I would have said, maybe. We played it last night till like 2 a.m. or something.
Yes, you were waiting for the bathroom scene to happen.
Oh man, I got Jose really well.
Oh, really?
Jose hadn't played it, and like I kept on waiting for the bathroom scene. If you haven't played it, then you don't know what it is. But it's spoilers of an ancient game. But it's like there's this scene that really scares you, just like the dogs in Resident Evil. And man, I was just watching Jose. It was wonderful when it happened.
I just want to point out, I was really excited for that game growing up. And then I read all of IGN's coverage. And you guys spoiled everything. The bathroom scene you spoiled, all the sanity effects. Yeah, everything.
Oh, my reaction.
You put up an article of a list of all the sanity effects. There's one in the game. Now, for people who've never played it, your character, it's this psychological horror game. And your character goes through all of this emotional and physical trauma. And at some points, when your health meter's really low.
Sanity
meter's really low. Weird things start happening. Like you walk in a room and you don't have a body, or your head's missing, or you walk in another room and the game goes, please insert controller, and you're like, did I unplug the controller? What happened? And you start flipping out.
Basically, they're
your TV turns off, the volume goes all the way down or up like that. It messes with you, and it's actually amazing that no game's really done this like this before. So I think just on the sheer just on the sheer joy of those things, I would love to see the game come back in some form. Now, Devil's Advocate.
I actually wanted to play Devil's Advocate too. But you can do it.
This franchise it's fought to sort of make a return a few times now. We even had Dennis Dyack on, who created the game, on Up at Noon, who was launching his sort of Kickstarter
Shadow of the Eternals.
Yeah. So I don't know where all the fans for this game went, because they didn't really come out and support that Kickstarter.
Well, there weren't that many to begin with, right? It wasn't a huge commercial success as a game. Wrong time, wrong platform, all of that, and virtually no marketing as well.
Yeah.
So I understand that, but it's also there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff, right? Where Dennis will readily admit that he made a mistake, kind of like launching an Indiegogo or something, or like his own Kickstarter, then trying to Kickstarter, then doing that, and kind of like stall
some questionable means were used.
And then there were people who were saying, wait, it's an episodic game. I don't like episodic games, right? Like there were all these kind of hurdles.
Yeah.
At which point you had like this core fan audience who said, I really want to play it. But a lot of people like, will they be able to finish this game? I think they would have. What Dennis has shown us looked really cool. But man, playing that game yesterday again, it was really good.
I want to say it holds up really well. I will say interface, puzzle design doesn't hold up exceptionally well. I mean, we're talking about a game that was made in 2002 or 2001, released in 2002.
Oh man!
And ultimately, the way you interface with certain objects, it's a little jarring, a little weird. The games don't really work that way anymore. But I do think they nailed atmosphere. They absolutely nailed ways to mess with you. Like my reactions to some of the things that were happening as I watched this, I was like, what just happened?
We got really far into. So I let Jose play most of the time, but we got really far into the game before his sanity meter ever ran out. Like the first thing I did when I was playing this game, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to run down the sanity meter. Like every time a monster looks at you, like the skeletons, their eyes will glow green.
Yeah.
And you will glow green, and your sanity goes down. And once it gets to a low point, that's when the camera slides slightly turns like
Yeah,
akimbo, and all these things happen. And like, so I was watching Jose, and like the moment the meter was going down, like he walks into a room, and instead of his character, there's like a zombie standing in its place, and Jose is like, what the. Like he's like confused.
My favorite is when
He's like, is this a glitch?
No, when I went through the floor, I was running down this flight of stairs or this short like 5 or 6 steps or whatever, and about to hit the floor where I should be, and she just kept going right through.
Yeah.
And no, but what freaked me out is that his GameCube is really old, and it was like stuttering during cutscenes. I was like, yo, it's broken. like, what happened? Oh, I just lost all that progress. And then the game was fine a second afterwards. I was like, yo, what is this game? Like, this is so strange. Anyway, it does make me sad that no developer, at least to my immediate knowledge, did not revisit some of these tricks and ways to mess with you. Metal Gear has experimented with a little bit of it, but not not as much. Where like it's practically its own mechanic of the game, right? Your state of mind.
It had another really cool thing, which I don't think gets it doesn't really get visited enough as a theme in games. And in hindsight, this might have been because they were lazy and they only built 5 environments in the entire game. But it does this cool thing where you visit an environment in the present, and then an hour or two later, you're playing with a different character, and you visit that same exact environment, but like hundreds of years before.
Short stories, yeah. It's sort of like a short story format.
And I like that. It was very clever to sort of be like, here's this temple, and you're in it, and here is it, hundreds of years later as a firefighter, which didn't really make a ton of sense.
It wasn't laziness. Like that was by design for the stories.
Sure,
but
it also
cut
helped
some stuff out. Yeah,
it helped that they only had to make 4 environments and then make them look old.
Here's what's cool. Like you play as like I think it's a Cambodian lady. Right?
Yeah,
like you go into a temple and you learn about this puzzle where you're supposed to, depending on where the sun is, whether it's rising or in the zenith or going down, like you adjust the light of the rooms by blowing out candles. So you play through this level, and that's the first time that puzzle pops up. Then you go back to modern times, and like the entire time there were like those 3 candles in the room, and you had no idea what it was. And then you're like, oh, okay, and then you can now interact with it. It's a little cheesy. It doesn't let you interact from the get-go with it, but I love that where like the main character is reading about these old stories, which you play, and then learns about how to solve a puzzle in the current time. So it's just really cool.
So let's save it for the Eternal Darkness podcast. We're going to end there. I think it could hold a chance. I do think it needs a little bit of an update. Maybe not just straight Virtual Console port. Just saying it just for interface reasons and whatnot.
I mean, bring on all the GameCube games, really. Or at least a lot of them.
A lot of them. I don't know about all of them.
Because right now we have none, Jose.